12 million acres of land quietly changed hands over the last couple of years. But the thing is, most of the buyers actually got it wrong. So if you're planning a retirement move or even looking to buy a legacy property, something you can pass down to your kids and grandkids, these 5 states are going to offer you the most in terms of value, freedom, and long-term security. Let me show you where the smart buyers are searching for land in 2025 and why they're searching for it there. I'm going to start with how I evaluated the states. All right, I've got 6 criteria and I'm going to walk you through it. And the criteria, it's not really what I'm coming up with. This is what experienced land buyers are actually looking for when they're identifying property. The first one is either no or very low state income taxes. The second one is either reasonable or no property tax, or at least having the ability to get an ag valuation or something like that to get that property tax level down. The third one is actually having the freedom to be able to do what you want. So very few county overlays, regulations that are minimal, things like that. So like when you buy a property and you have an idea of what you want to use it for, you're actually going to be able to do that on it without a bunch of government oversight. The next one is water rights. Do you have access to water? Do you have rights to the water that's on your property, or is there some big governmental overlay on that as well that's going to restrict how you can use it? The next thing is homestead viability. Is it something that you can actually use for long-term livability, or are these states going to be a little bit more on the side of recreation instead? And then the other thing that we always have to take a look at is appreciation. Do we have the possibility for strong appreciation, or has that market already been overbought and have those prices elevated already? So what I'm doing is I'm cross-checking those 6 data points with places like LandWatch, Zillow Land Index, and things like that, just to see, okay, what's taking place from a government perspective, and then what's happening on the ground with actual land prices. All right, let's jump into the list. And as we're going through this, guys, the reason I can talk about other states like this is because I have people on the ground in those states that I've worked with before that I can refer people to. So if you're looking in Arizona or Tennessee, let me know if you don't already have somebody there who can help you out, because I've got those people. I'm more than happy to make those introductions for you. Number 5 on the list, Arizona. And what I'm looking at in Arizona specifically are some of the fringe counties in the high desert area. We're going to stay out of the major metros on this one. 3 sleeper counties that I've identified in Arizona, and look, if I've identified them, other people have too at this point, but Apache, Mojave, and Navajo counties in Arizona. Those 3 counties have some of the lightest restrictions in the entire U.S., and if you're buying large pieces, you can still identify properties there around $1,200 an acre. There's always a little bit of a catch when you're talking about land at that price though. What this area is going to be best for is people that are looking to get off grid. So out there, either you can haul in water or you can drill wells. You're going to be setting up solar more than likely. But the good thing that's appealing for a lot of people is in most areas, you could live full time in an RV if you wanted to. And here's another little bit of a catch. If you're buying with the idea that you may want to subdivide, Arizona requires permits if you're going to subdivide something into more than 5 lots. And in order to get that approval, you're going to have engineering, and you're probably going to have to get septic plan approval ahead of time. So you're going to have to design that too. That's a little bit more of an upfront cost, and it could affect the bottom line if that's your plan, but still a good location. But if you're looking for a long-term hold and not necessarily a short flip type situation, this is one of the last truly flexible markets in the U.S. All right, number 4 on the list is Wyoming. Okay, Wyoming, a lot like Arizona, especially in those 3 counties, you're going to be looking at a long-term play. But Wyoming is ranked number 1 in the U.S. for asset protections because they've got really strong trust laws, and also you got 0 income tax. Wyoming's starting to get more and more popular, but you still have, just like in Arizona, you've got opportunities. Sheridan County, Bighorn County, Fremont County, you can still find affordable land there. And another great thing is there are very, very few use restrictions outside of the incorporated areas. So you can do kind of what you want. So you can put in multiple dwellings, you can operate a business there, but one of the really great things is there's no inheritance tax in Wyoming either, so you can pass that land down from generation to generation and not have to worry about the government trying to get their part of it. Now, every state's got its downsides. We're going to talk about all of them. And with Wyoming, number 1, especially for me being in Texas, winters. Yep, don't know that I want to have to deal with that. Chances are you're probably going to need a plow and a 4-wheel drive vehicle before you're ever going to need a survey out there. And if your idea is to get really remote, okay, infrastructure costs are going to be a big concern for you. You're going to be able to dig a well more than likely, but you might be in the $25,000 to $30,000 range if you're going to put a hole in the ground for water. And then if you've got to put in roads and other access costs too, you just really have to plan ahead. All right, number 3 on the list is Florida, but not all of Florida. We're talking the Panhandle in northern Florida, not South Florida. Identifying specific areas, again, we're talking about Liberty County, Jackson County, and Suwannee County. And I'm focused on those counties because you can still find land between $3,000 and $6,000 an acre there. Plus, zoning laws are going to allow you to do off-grid stuff. You're going to be able to build barndominiums and things like that. So again, you're going to be less restricted by the government. And then on top of that, Florida is popular with retirees for a reason, okay? You got no state income tax, you got really low property taxes. And one of the other things that helps speed things up from an infrastructure perspective is a lot of times their permitting for septic is really, really easy on smaller tracts of land. The big red flag on Florida, you already know it, hurricanes are a thing and it rains a lot. So there's a lot of properties that are zoned FEMA B or A, which is technically flood zones. So you're really going to have to do your due diligence and analyze the property, make sure that you're buying something you can actually build on. And because of that potential for flooding, you're probably going to need special permitting if you're wanting to regrade a piece of property or cut out trees or something like that. They're going to have to analyze it, make sure you don't screw up a floodway. One key thing for Florida I'm going to leave you with, or anywhere else where there's a lot of water in low-lying areas like that, make sure you get a lot-specific elevation certificate. You got to know what the elevation is of that property. All right, number 2, my home state, Texas. It always pops up, always pops up. One of the reasons is because we don't have property taxes here. But you've got to pay attention to where you're looking in Texas. Texas is huge, but that's part of the trap. A lot of people get sucked in thinking that they want to live near Austin or near Dallas or near Houston, and near is relative, right? Maybe an hour outside. But that's where you're going to get caught up in higher property taxes. The cost of the land's going to be higher. And a lot of times, if you're too close in and a city like Austin or Dallas is expanding out, you could get caught up in ETJ overreaches. Again, part of what you're looking for here is not to have to deal with a bunch of government entities telling you what you can and can't do or what can be built around you. So like the other states, we're going to focus on specific counties here. Mills County, San Saba County, Gonzales County, or that's close to where I grew up, Lavaca County, or Real County, REAL. It looks like real, but it's Real. Some people pronounce it Real. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Those are the counties that you want to be taking a look at. This is where you're going to be finding a lot of properties with ag exemptions. Ag exemptions are really, really important in Texas. You're also going to find, again, fewer of those zoning overlays that are going to restrict what you do. And you're also going to end up with lower densities in those areas or further away from the major metro areas. Case in point, 2019, Blanco County, which is kind of between, it's west of Austin and north of San Antonio, but Blanco County was about $3,200 in 2019. Today, you're going to be lucky to find something in Blanco County less than $8,000 an acre. But if you go west a little further, get on the other side of Fredericksburg, now you're going to be back down into the $4,500 an acre range. But kind of like in Florida, one of the downsides is you really have to pay attention, especially if you're in the hill country or down around Houston. You're really going to have to pay attention to the flood zones here as well. Flood zones out here, we've got flash floods because when it rains a lot and it rains fast. And a lot of the FEMA maps had to be updated in 2024 because of what happened during Hurricane Harvey, and I think the other one was Beryl. But anyway, you need to make sure that you're looking at the most updated FEMA flood maps, not only in Texas, but anywhere. But you know, it popped up with a client the other day, so that's fresh on my mind. The other downside about Texas, but it's no different than Arizona or Florida, you're going to have to deal with heat. Not going to have to worry too much about cold in the winter and snow and all that stuff. You'll deal with the ice a little bit, but if you like to be outside in the summer, it's going to be hot. Get ready for it. Now, before I get on to number 1, this isn't a normal top 5 list. This isn't like number 1 isn't the end of it because I've got really good information that pertains to these states after number 1. I just want to get to number 1 first. So the number 1 state for this list is Tennessee. Tennessee hits just about every one of the check marks that I gave you earlier. Those 6 points, Tennessee hits just about every single one perfectly. You've got no state income tax. You've got really, really light zoning almost everywhere as long as you're not in one of the major metros. And compared to most of the states around it, Tennessee is still undervalued. I've got a great friend that works in the Knoxville area, and we talk about land values all the time, and it's crazy that you can still find great deals there. This is probably going to seem crazy to you. Middle Tennessee has seen land values go up 40 to 50% in the last 5 years. And I know I told you at the beginning, we're trying to find places where it's not overbought, but if you look in places like Clay or Overton counties, you can still find great deals on a piece of property. We're talking land under $5,000 an acre still. Strategic buyers love Tennessee. You can still build small, you can still raise animals, you can still farm on really good farmland. You can build multiple structures. Septic rules are not that strict. And again, as long as you're staying out of those major incorporated areas, there's not going to be a bunch of overlays that restrict what you do. But No state's perfect. Even though there's a lot of water, it's in the southeast US, water access can be a little bit inconsistent. And there's been a lot of mining over the years in Tennessee, so you may have to do soil stability tests or potentially phase 1 environmentals and stuff like that if you're looking in some of those locations where they've done that mining. Just like any state we're going to be putting in a septic system, you're always going to have a PERT test. Tennessee is no different. But you also want to look up USGS mineral hazard maps if you're looking to buy in Tennessee. You definitely want to take those into account. And I've mentioned this before in the video already. No state is perfect. Everything has got its hazards, but these are potential huge landmines that could blow your deal up. In Tennessee, I just got done talking about it. Potential unstable soils if you're near an old mining site, potential PERT test issues, and again, you could have some issues with minerals or hazardous waste because of those old mining operations. And in Texas, I just told you that they had to redo the flood maps in 2024. Those redone flood maps put thousands and thousands and thousands of acres into floodplains that had not been floodplain area before. So you've got to make sure that you're looking at the most current maps on the website. And in Arizona, and this may be one of the worst, is they've got a lot of new groundwater restrictions going on. I mean, Arizona's a desert, guys. So pay specific attention if you're looking near Flagstaff or Prescott, because you may have land that looks like a great deal because these water restrictions are making it cheap. And one good thing about the government is they do try to keep you out of trouble. Again, I mentioned the FEMA flood maps. You got to check those out. But you can also get access to USDA soil surveys where you can go to an area, again, potentially in Tennessee, and they've got a map that you can look at what's the potential makeup of the soil. And you might be able to find some of those old mining sites where, it's not suitable to put a septic system in or something like that. So check out those two sites, the USDA soil surveys and the FEMA flood maps. And as we're going through all this, I get asked all the time, well, what would you do if you were me? So let's say I had $150,000 today and I was going to buy a piece of property. Where would I look? Well, personally, I would take a look at East Texas. I would want an area that's got water availability. So East Texas would be one. Middle Tennessee would be another area. I'd take a look at northern Florida, and the hurricanes, they don't scare me all that much, especially if you're not right on the coast. And I'd be targeting something around 20 acres, between 20 and 30 acres. But it's all about what you're looking for, that final function. If you're looking for a legacy property, something that you can pass down, it would be Wyoming hands down because of those laws protecting the trusts. And at the end of the day, every one of these states is a good option, but they've all got hair on them. But at this point, at least you've got to start. Now you're going to go do some homework. If you're looking in Texas, guys, reach out to me. I can help you. If you need help in another state, you always want to have those assets on the ground, the local assets. And if you don't have them, let me know. I know people in every state that can help with stuff like this. You just have to reach out to me and ask.